Hello, this is Michelle from CNC Designs. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in New Zealand, and I'm going to show you how to make a card using all the products from the Rain or Shine Suite collection from Stampin' Up! This can be found on pages 50 and 51 of the Stampin' Up! Mini catalog for January to April 2023. So that just shows samples of some of the products there. And then that's the entire suite. You've got stamp set, dies, specialty paper, some loose daisy embellishments, and an embossing folder. And we're going to use all of those today to create this card that I've designed. So I'm calling this a bridge double card. Basically bridging because there's something connecting the two halves of the front, but it does actually have a bridge on it. And so it opens up this way, and then you've got a second card on the inside, and you've got room to write your sentiment there. So that's what I'm going to show you how to make, this cute little card here, using all the items. I will list in the description below this video everything that I've used. All the products are Stampin' Up! Products, so if you want to purchase any of them, you can contact your demonstrator and use the product code shown in the list, or if you're in New Zealand and don't already have a demonstrator, feel free to go to michellekritchley.stampinup.net to contact me and order directly. You can order from anywhere in New Zealand, get it sent directly to your home from my website. I will also be putting some information up on my blog, papercraftaddiction.blogspot.co.nz, with pictures of other things that I've made using this suite of products. So let's get started. So as I mentioned, there's a stamp set. We're going to be using the bunny, the two different sentiments, the flowers, and the clouds from that set. And there are matching dies. So the dies match the three characters. There's a die for the umbrella, the puddle, the flowers, and the clouds. But we're just going to use dies for those three here. And there's also an embossing folder, Raindrops embossing folder. We'll be using that on the window sheet. And then there's the loose daisy embellishments. There's about 300 you get in the pot. But I've used a lot, so you get a lot more than what you see here, but I've already used quite a few. We'll be using a few of those to finish it off. So what you need to get started, and the great thing with this card, basically it uses one piece of cardstock. So you use half of a sheet of blue A4 cardstock and half a sheet of thick basic white, and then you just use a few little scrap elements for the rest of it. So what you want for the inside card is you need a piece that is 21 centimeters by 10.5 centimeters. And then you're going to score it down the center here at 10.5 centimeters. And then you're just going to fold and burnish that. I'll move these things out of the way. So we're going to fold and burnish that with our bone folder. And then you just need another piece that we're going to be stamping on. And this piece is left over, so basically from two A4 sheets of cardstock, one of basic white and one of balmy blue, I can do two cards. So this was what was left over, and this is 10.5 by about 8.5. Doesn't really matter that it's that big, but with the leftover piece, we're going to stamp on that. From the balmy blue sheet of cardstock, you are going to cut a piece that is 10.5 this way and 19 centimeters this way. And then you're going to score it at 15 centimeters. So you have that little section here that ends up being 4 centimeters wide. So that section there is 4 centimeters wide and 10.5 centimeters tall. And then you want to cut another piece that same size. So we've got 4 centimeters by 10.5. And that's the other side here. So this is, if you imagine, it's half a long sheet. And then you end up with the section left over in the middle, and you're going to use half of that piece for your clouds. So essentially this is half a sheet of A4, and that's half a sheet of the basic white A4. You also need a 10, kind of hard to see this, let's get the blue, there we go. So you need a 10 by 10 centimeter square piece of window sheet. That's approximately 4 by 4 inches. The window sheets we sell are in 12 by 12 inch pieces, so you would definitely have enough to do several of those from one pack of window sheets. And we're using the Rain or Shine Specialty Designer Series paper. And with that paper, it comes with a couple sheets that have raindrops on them. And so you're going to want a 3.5 by 10 centimeter piece. So I find it's best to do a 7 centimeter by 10 centimeter and then cut it in half. And then you've got mirrored pieces. I think these actually mirror that way. So matching pieces. I'll just quickly show you the other sheets in that designer series paper so you can see all the different ideas you have. And at the end of the video, if I remember, I will show you some other cards that I've made with this suite of products. So I'm just going to quickly show you the paper. So here's the paper. It's 12 by 12 inch designer series paper. It's a specialty paper, and you get 2 sheets of each design in your pack. So you end up with 12 sheets. And every sheet, Stampin' Up! Designer Series paper is double-sided. So we have 2 images on both sides. So there's just some pretty raindrops. But on one side, the reason it's called specialty is it's got a special effect. So in this case, it actually has a shimmer or UV effect. So if you have a look there, you can see that some of the characters here are shining and the rain is shining. So we've got one with a bunch of little cute characters there, turtle, dog, and pigs. And then we have this one here matches the images that are in the stamp set. So those are the exact same images from the stamp set. And if you're not familiar with Stampin' Up, when we have images on paper that matches what's in the stamp set that has matching dies, you can use the dies to die cut them. And see this one, they shimmer as well. And so that's just got some stripes on the back. And I'll just show you that the dies, some of the dies, will cut out the images on the paper. So we've got the die there for the fox, and we have the die there for the turtle, and we also have the die for the bunny. So you could, if you don't want to fussy cut those out and you want those exact images and you don't want to stamp and color them, you can just die cut them. So those 3 dies match those images there. And then we have this beautiful page that's got umbrellas. The back side has got some pretty cheerful flowers. But on the umbrella side, you got shimmer. So again, there's a bit of UV. It's called UV in the catalog, but I just call it shimmer. It's almost like clear embossed on some of those images. And the little umbrella die will cut out the pink umbrellas on this set. So you can have a bunch of little umbrellas. Those little umbrellas cut out with that die. And then there's this beautiful piece here. Great background piece, especially if you're into scrapbooking. So you can have a nice big field in the background with your scrapbooking. And with this one, the UV is on the clouds. So you can see the cloud shimmer. And the cloud die, that matches the stamps for this set, we'll cut these clouds out, these smaller clouds. So you can cut out, it cuts out 3 clouds in one go. So you can cut out those and those. And I will show you later some cards that I use the edge bits. So even though those are off the side, you can still use the die to cut those out. Those clouds are too big there. That one does look like it fits. Or you could just cut the cloud die on the blue background and just have some interesting looking clouds. And the back of this one is some checks. I believe that's Mango Melody, that color there. But these are the papers that I've been using for this card that I'm doing now. So it's got lots of rain. This looks like a very stormy weather event, which we happen to be having in Auckland at the moment. So you can see there's the UV, the shimmer on some of those raindrops. So in that light, see how it's shining? And then the back of that is some pretty flirty flamingo color. And the paper is meant to look like that. So there's some areas that look like the ink didn't go on to it. It's meant to be like that. It's like the boho chic look. So there's nothing wrong with your paper. And just like here, we have some darker and some lighter patches to reflect what storms are like. And then there's this rainy one. But this one, we've got heavy rain at the top, and then it goes to the lighter rain at the bottom. But we still have the UV effect. So we've got some white and balmy blue colors there shimmering with the UV. In the back of this, it's just got some splatters of the Mango Melody and the Flirty Flamingo, which would be a nice background to some cards. So when I'm done showing you how to make this card, I will show you some samples using some of that paper. So this here, just to let you see, these strips here, I cut from the bottom. So because it's directional, you got to make sure you cut it the right way. So on here, I'm going to cut 10 centimeters over this way. And then from the 10 centimeter piece, I cut two 3.5 centimeter pieces. So that's how I got that. And then using this whole sheet, every card will look slightly different because some will have more rain and some will have less rain. Just like this one that I showed earlier, it's got some heavy rain on there. And just be aware when you are putting your paper down and your embossing folder, the direction of raindrops, some people just put it any old way, but the skinny part goes at the top and the bigger part goes at the bottom because you know, as it flows down, the heavy drops pull it down. So that's all you need. And then ink and a couple scraps of other cardstock. I'm going to be using the old olive for the grass, Cajun craze for the bridge, soft suede for the stump, and the balmy blue, which is left over from there for the clouds. Now, I'm stamping all this in basic gray ink. So let's get started with that. So we've got our basic gray ink. And on the white piece and the extra little blue piece, we're going to stamp. So we're going to do the bunny. Now, the die for the bunny does not cut out the water, so you don't have to worry about stamping the water onto your cardstock or coloring it in. But for the purposes of this card, I'm just going to go ahead and stamp the whole thing. But you'll see that it doesn't cut out the water. And then I'm going to stamp my flowers. I'm just going to put them up the side because I'm going to die cut them. So I want 2 sets of flowers that I'm going to die cut out. And then I'm going to stamp those again on the other card in a minute. And then I want my clouds in the basic gray. You could stamp and heat emboss these. They look quite good done heat embossed in gray or black or white or even clear. Looks good. Gives you that shimmer effect. But for this card, everything is just being stamped in gray to make it easier. Okay, so those have all been stamped, and then I'm going to color the bunny and the flowers in. But I'm going to stamp the flowers in the on the inside of the card. So this is the inside card stock, and I just noticed I've got a bit of a smudge there, so I'm going to turn it that way. So that'll be on the inside. You won't see that smudged section. That's why you have to try to keep your fingers clean when you're stamping. So for this card, I'm just going to have some flowers up there. And then I'm going to have some flowers on the inside. And then for the inside, I'm stamping the words, "Oh, happy day." This set only has 2 sentiments. So the inside, I'm going to stamp "Oh, happy day." Try to be straight. I always seem to stamp it crooked. Oh, that one's better than normal. I'm just going to open that up to stamp the other sentiment. Rainy days are better than with you. And I want that slightly off to the side because I'm going to cover it up with the clouds on the front of the card. Okay. There we go. So that's all the stamping I'm doing for this card. And then, before I start coloring, I'm going to do some sponging. So, not sponging, blending. So, with my blending brushes, I'm going to do the bottom part of this inside card in Old Olive. Now, you could do the blending and then stamp afterwards. It doesn't really matter which way you choose to do it. I'm going to put some scrap paper down for this part, so I have somewhere to blend off. Okay, so I have the card closed. Rub your blending brush, get a little color on there. It might not look like much color, but if you go off the side, you can see there is some color. And come up from the bottom. Now, the bottom is supposed to be grass, like a meadow. The rabbit's going through a meadow, so just kind of go with your eye to blend it as light or as dark as you want. But if you come from the edge and bring it up, you don't get those smeary looks. So if I come straight on the card and move it like that, see how I have the big splotch there? But if I come from the edge and bring it over, I tend to not have the big dark splotch. I mean, you might like that look. You might want it to give you that kind of a grassy effect. Some people like that. And sometimes I've done it by accident and I just leave it because, hey, it looks like it was meant to be. And nobody really knows what your card's supposed to look like because it's a creative process, and I've yet to have somebody come back to me and say, "Oh, did you mean to do that?" or "I don't like the way that looks." So again, just a little bit of rubbing around. I usually rub off a bit on scrap paper just to make sure I don't have the big blotch. And then just coming in with circular motions. And then you can press harder if you want a darker look. So see how that's smeared? That's why I do that on the paper first. And I'm just going to come in. And don't worry, the edges are going to get the dark blue because of the way it's catching, but that's okay. And what I like about this technique, especially for this card, is because it looks like there's clouds. So some of the areas that don't take the blue, I mean, I could rub it for hours and make it really, really dark or add more ink. But if you don't do it too long, some of the splotchy areas that aren't as blue almost looks like clouds. So I'll just add a little bit. And so the pressure, if you put light pressure, you're not going to get a lot of ink, but if you give it more pressure, you're going to get more ink coming through. So I just kind of do circular motions. And it's just a technique, what works for you. But now I've got the blue and the green separation on my card. So that's the blending. And now I'm going to color. So I'm using the watercolor pencils. Now I'm just going to color plain, but you can actually use a bit of water on them to blend in the colors if you want. So in this card here, see how you can see the pencil marks, but if I used a bit of water, I could blend them in smoother. and you can get different looks. So these two cards are done with the exact same colored pencil for the raincoat, but it gives you different effects depending on how hard you press. So now coloring. So I'll move that so I don't get color on the back of my card. So there's 2 packs of watercolor pencils that Stampin' Up sells. So we have our assortment number 2 and our original watercolor pencils. The original pack has 13 pencils in it, and the other one has 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Because they go up from, that was number 13, and they go from 14 up to 23. So these colors do match our inks. And I've got some pencils from each pack that I'm using here. So for my bunny, to keep him a white bunny, and I don't want to do too much coloring on him, I'm just going to do some Flirty Flamingo in the ear section, just to give it a bit of shading in there. You could, you know, color it in a different color rabbit. It could be a brown rabbit. You could have a gray rabbit. You could highlight different areas. It's up to you. So I'm just going a bit light there, and then over the lines I'm just doing it a bit darker to emphasize. The nice thing with most of the images is because of the extra lines, you know where the darkness on the images is meant to be. And I'm just gonna, just doing a bit of a coloring in on the little freckles. And it is a pencil, so I could erase this if I wanted to, if I go somewhere I don't like. Okay, so we'll just give a little pink around the foot. And as I said before, with this one, the die is actually going to cut the rabbit and not the puddle, so don't bother coloring in the puddle. I think his lips are too pink, but that's okay. And then for my jacket, now that was Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to do Rich Razzleberry, and I'm just going to gently get a light raincoat here. I just think the colors are a nice contrast. They also are the colors that are mentioned in the designer series paper. Some of the papers don't have these colors, but other pages will. So on the pack of your designer series paper, it does mention what colors are in the pack, and you're bound to find those colors somewhere in there. Like for this one, I think the Rich Razzleberry is on the page with the umbrellas. And then I'm just going to push a bit harder and go around the lines to emphasize the outline of the raincoat. And if you don't like the pencil lines, you can blend it, as I said, with the we have a blender pen, and we have our water painters, which is completely different than our blends. Those are alcohol-based pens. I have colored some with our blends, and when I show you the samples later on, you'll see a few things with those colors done in. Just a bit of shading there. So you could color forever if you wanted, but I'm just going to make it quick. And then for my flowers, I am going to match the colors that are in the loose embellishments. So we have Daffodil Delight, and we have Cajun Craze for the center of the flowers, and they're white as well. So I'm just going to randomly choose a few to do yellow, and then I'll do some in the leave some white. So it just makes it match the embellishments. You could color them any color you want. If you are using that background page I showed you, the designer series paper with the beautiful meadow scene, those are the colors we're looking at here. So We got Cajun Craze for the middle, Daffodil Delight, white, and Old Olive, which is why I chose that for the blending. So we'll just color these guys in, and then I'm going to be die cutting them out. So I will put it on pause and come back after I die cut everything. But I'll just color these ones in because I'm going to color the flowers on the card as well. So with these, I've just put the centers are Cajun Craze for those guys. The other ones are yellow, so they look like they're white daisies. And then this is Old Olive. Just follow the lines and just a bit. You can do it as light or as dark you want. You could even like blend in the background if you want it to have nice green dark background. And so it's just as easy as that. So you don't have to go crazy with your coloring. I'm just going to do that one I missed. Okay. So I'm going to finish coloring these, and then I'm going to die cut them out, and I will come back and show you how to put the card together. But before I do that, I want to show you a special technique with the stump die, which I can't, oh, there it is. So with the stump die, it actually embosses as well. So you see there's some embossing there. And you can get, if you just die cut it, it will do the stump with some lines. And it looks nice that way. But if you do this technique, you're going to get a better effect. So the technique is you dip your die into the ink before you die cut it. So it only works with dies that have embossed sections on it. So as I said, there's those grooves there. So I'm just going to set it on there and just use my pick-a tool, gently pick it up, and it's got a bit of ink on. It's picked up a little bit of ink onto the lines. You don't want to push it too hard. I'll show you a sample in a minute if you push it too hard. And then just gently set it onto the piece that you're going to die cut. So now I'm going to die cut that along with the other images and come back and show you the results. Okay, so I've die cut all the bits from the flowers, my rabbit, my clouds, and there is the trunk. Now, if you can see, the lines look a little bit dark because I dipped it into the ink. And to show you a comparison, here is the piece just die cut. So you can see it die cuts and it puts like embossing. But if you do it with the ink first, you get a bit of darkness on those lines. So compare the two right there. Hopefully you can see the difference. Okay, so this one has ink that's been pressed into the embossed lines, and this one does not. You can take a pen or a pencil and color in those lines afterwards if you want, or even blend it a bit if you want to give it some emphasis on the lines. But that's the quick and easy way to do that. Now the other thing we need to do is I'm going to emboss the window sheet. So I'm using the Raindrop embossing folder. Now, if you want it to be straight, you can just pop it in there any old way. But if you want it to be straight, you might not be aware there's a line on the part that says Stampin' Up, which is always the front of the embossing folder. But you can line things up along that line. Kind of hard to see with the, maybe you can see it there. So I'm just lining the bottom of my window sheet on that line, and that will give me a perfectly straight embossed image. And I'm just going to close it. You always put your embossing folders through your machine with the folded side first and roll them through one direction. Never roll them back onto themselves. So I'm going to do that, and you're going to see how you can use your embossing folders with things like window sheets. Now, other videos I've shown doing it with vellum, and when you do it with vellum, it makes it white. This looks pretty good with vellum, but for this card, vellum was too flimsy to hold the front the way I want it, so I'm using a window sheet. So here it is, been embossed with the Raindrops embossing folder, and there you go. So you have your raindrops coming down. And if I just stuck it in any old way, the raindrops might go a different direction, but they're going straight. So now let's put our card together. You need tear and tape for your window sheet. It's the best thing to hold it in place because liquid glue, if you put liquid glue on here and it smears out where you don't want it, it sticks and it's very obvious. So to hold it in place, put some tear and tape. Now this is going to be stuck down on the front of our card like that. So because we want to stick it on the front, we're actually going to, that's the emboss, the raised part, we're going to turn it over to the deboss. That's the pressed down portion of the raindrops. And we are going to put our tape on the two sides, making sure you're going in the correct direction. So we got our raindrops moving that way. So we put our tape, just a bit of tear and tape on each side. Don't worry about going overboard with the tear and tape because you're going to be putting designer series paper over the top, which will also help to hold it in place. So the other thing is pay attention to which direction your raindrops are going. So as it shows in the picture, skinny end is the top, fat end is the bottom. The raindrops fall that direction. So you need to make sure, if you can't see, hold it over something, that your raindrops are falling the correct way. Then you want to stick it down. So put your card landscape direction down and your other little piece match up to the end on this side. So you want it to be right to the end there. And then I like the tab method with tear and tape because that way you can get better placement, and if something's crooked you can peel it up easily. So just pulling a little tab out from each edge reveals only a little bit of the adhesive. Make sure our raindrops are going the correct direction, and then just pretty much centering it as best you can. It doesn't matter because it's going to be bigger than you need. Center it over the two pieces. So I like that look there. Oh no, it's a bit high. So it is slightly smaller because remember this is 10 centimeters and that's 10.5. So you're going to have a little bit of blue above and below. And then before I stick it down, I'm just going to double check that the end of my card is actually touching the end of the other card. So making sure that's definitely the full length. I'm then going to press it down in the part that's exposed, and that's going to hold it where I want it to be. And if there was something wrong, I could easily peel up that corner and readjust it. But that looks good. And when you're happy with that, you pull the tab to release the adhesive. So pull the tab there, release the adhesive. So that's the front of our card. Now, as I said, I tried that with vellum and it wasn't thick enough, but that is sturdy enough to hold your card open. Then you're going to cover that adhesive section with your two pieces of designer series paper with the raindrops. Now, if you didn't have the designer series paper, you could always just cut another piece of balmy blue and stamp it with the raindrop stamp. So you could use a raindrop stamp on sections of balmy blue in the front if you want. So if you didn't purchase the designer series paper, or if you maybe used it all up and ran out of the rainy part, you could just do the other raindrops and that would do the same. Kind of give you the same effect. So again, I've got my tear and tape, give myself some tabs so I can get better placement. Yep. And I could do some liquid glue on here, but again, because it's going on window sheet, if the liquid glue, if I had liquid glue and it oozed out onto this section, you can see it. It's not very good. And again, making sure our raindrops are going the correct way. These two pieces were cut from the same piece. So I'm just checking to see if they match up, because I'm weird like that. So I want them to match up. So again, lining it up, and then if you line up where you have a bit of a border, press on the part that doesn't have the adhesive showing, and then line up the bottom where it, again, no adhesive. And then once you're happy with the placement, then press those sections that have the adhesive sticking out, because if there was something wrong, I could easily pull it up. Peel that up, and there. And then I'm going to do the same on the other side, because also you might press it down and then realize, oh, I've got my raindrops the wrong way around. So just lining it up, having about the same amount of blue going around all the sides, and press it into place, peel it up, and nice perfect placement. There we go. So now the card for the inside, I could do the tear and tape method, but that does take a little bit of time. So we're going to speed it up and just put some glue. Make sure you stamp your card, sponge and stamp your card before you stick it together, because there's two sides to every piece of cardstock. So if you find an error, like I noticed there's some ink on there, you can turn it over and use the other side. But if you've stuck it down before you stamped on it, and then you stamp and it doesn't sit right, then you can't fix it as easily. So here I'm trying to get even space on both sides of the blue, and also it should fit nicely at top and bottom, because this is 10.5 centimeters and that's 10.5 centimeters. So roughly looks the same. You can flip it over, check that you got no bits hanging out. And because it's glue, the liquid glue, I have wiggle room, so I could wiggle it into place if I need to. And I'm just going to quickly go over that to help spread any of the glue out where it needs to go. And now it's just a matter of decorating. So I'm going to decorate the front first with my die cut pieces already. So I've got my grass. I just lost my other piece of grass. I've got my bridge. Now I just want to show you. So this was the trunk with the ink on it, and I showed you the one without the ink. But if you press it too hard into your ink pad, you get ink splotches elsewhere on the die, but it still gives it an interesting effect. So that's gentle pressing on the ink, and that's a heavy pressing on the ink. So if you do press too hard, it looks good still, or you can just clean it off with your chamois, or rinse it off in water, because it's water-based ink. So we're going to put this together now, and just going to put a little bit of glue on here, because this will go on to the window sheet, and the glue will dry clear, but you don't want it to smear everywhere. So just gentle with your Tombow. I'm just gently pressing and then using the nozzle to help spread it out. Don't have to get the whole thing. So just a bit of glue on there, and then we're going to put that in the center. Now I suggest you do this first, because then you'll know where to put your bunny on the inside. So just put that, and it fits nicely between the two pieces there. I'm going to put our little stump on as well. It's very cute. I remember we had a stump like this for one of the other sets. I think it was a chicken birthday set. So I'm going to have him overlap slightly. Now the grass, there's two dies for the grass, which is fabulous. So you can get your grass going two different directions. And you could put this in the ink like I did with the stump to get you some dark lines on there, but I thought it looked perfectly fine the way it is. So your grass goes two different directions, so you can decide which side you want to use. I like it all kind of leaning towards the center. So I'm going to pop little bit of grass there, growing up next to the stump. And then some grass on the other side. Now you could add another stump, more grass, whatever you like. The other dies in this set are a kite and some butterflies. It just cuts out the outline of butterflies. But yeah, the kite is quite cute. And I'll show you some projects soon with the kite, showing you what the kite looks like. So you can always wipe away some of that glue. Now, the words are only partially showing. Now, I did that on purpose so you see it more when you open the card. But because of that, I'm going to hide them with my clouds. So I'm going to do 2 clouds on this side to hide that. I might even do this big and the small one this time around. No, I think I'll stick with the 2 big ones. So for this one, it's going to go on the window sheet. I'm just going to put a bit of glue there. And that's so I can wiggle it into place. And I've hold it over there to get it to cover most of the words. There's a little bit of words showing up there. And then if you look in the back, you can see the glue is kind of showing up there. So what you do is you get your bone folder and you just rub it till the glue spreads out. And then it will dry clear. But because I only put the glue in the center, it's not smearing onto the rest of the window sheet. It's only staying where I want it to be. And the same with the bridge. So in this case, little is better when it comes to the liquid glue. So when you open it up, you have that look there. So not a lot of words showing, so I think I will go with the small cloud there. With a little one-dimensional on the back of my cloud. And quite often I never know which way up these clouds are supposed to go. So the clouds can go any way you want, I guess. I guess if you want to know which way, look at the stamp set and it shows you the right direction. But like this one could probably go that way. I guess the lines go a certain way. So pop that up there. You want to do it so your dimensional is not going to show through. And this guy, we're just going to pop that guy up with the edge of my dimensionals. Don't know if you do, I use every last bit of dimensionals. So this is a corner piece that I'm using. So nice thing with the dimensionals, you can cut away the edges. And because they're hexagons, I believe, they get the best use out of the quantity that you get. So we're going to pop this guy. We're just going to pop him up, maybe up there a bit. Again, make sure you do it. Oh, see, I've got the little bit showing there, so I'm just going to pull him up gently and try to move him over before he gets too stuck down. There we go. Move them over a bit so you don't see it when you open it up. All right, now I'm going to place my bunny. So the bunny, and glue him down. You could put him up on dimensionals, but then it might make your card too thick. So I'm just going to place him gently. Just set him there gently because I want to see where he looks. So I haven't pressed down hard because I want to see where he looks in relation to the bridge. So it looks like he's walking on the bridge. So I'm going to move him over slightly. And that looks like he's kind of jumping on the bridge nicely. See where his feet are? So you don't want to stick your bunny down and find that his feet are below the bridge. That's not good. I do have this card here. I didn't think of that when I placed him, so he's quite high jumping on the bridge. And this one is more exact. So keep in mind, that's why you do the bridge part in the front first. And then these 2 bits just overlap to give you a bit of interest on the inside. And I find the center, it's perfect size to be centered. So put glue only on 1/2. So you only want it to that center part there. So just about halfway over. And that just gives a bit of interest to the card. So you don't want to glue it too far over. I'm going to make sure. Okay. And then the same over here. I might put this one up high. So this one I'm going to glue half of it, but the opposite half. Not the same half that I glued over there. So keep in mind, only put glue on half of your die cut pieces. And I'm just going to pop that over there. I'm just going to check that I haven't got any glue going over the edges. And give it a bit of a burnish. And nearly finished. So there you go. So that's the look on the outside. You open it up. Got your rainy days are better with you. Oh, happy day. But we have our cute little embellishments. The easiest way to use these is if you have a pick a tool. Take your pick tool, I think it's called. The sticky end. So there's a little bit of stickiness that comes out there. And Tombow. So what you want to do is just at some of the tips of this grass here, just a tiny dot. I'm going to do 5 on each side. So I'm going to do 5 little dots. See, just 5 little dots. Just be gentle with it. And then these embellishments come in all different sizes. So the way they've cut, they're different sizes. They're good for shaker cards, but I find because of the different sizes, it's quite good. It gets a more realistic look. So I'm going to take and just put different colors on each side. They're also different thicknesses. So some are thicker than others. And you just simply take them and place them where you want. So it's easier to put the glue where you want it to go than it is to try to glue the back of one of these. Because if you try to glue the back of one of these and then try to put it down, it's quite difficult. You could, in theory, hold it with your pick a tool and put a dot of glue on there. But again, that's kind of difficult. So you put it down, and if you have difficulty, if you don't have fingernails like me, just use something else like your scissors to hold it in place. And I'll do the same over here. Just 5 little dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I know there's 6 stems, but things look better when they're odd numbers. So I think I will put that guy there. Oh. I'll show you the scissor method then. And we'll put a white one there. And so use your scissor just to hold it down while you take your pick a tool away. As long as your scissors aren't sticky. And because we have the different sizes, it's quite handy. Because as I said, it looks more realistic. So I'm going to do some more white ones over here. I'm just trying to be even. And they have like a little leaf on them, so just let the leaves go any way you want. And then you could press them down with your fingers, but if you don't want to get sticky, I don't even take the top off the other end. I just use the other end to press things down. And just give it a good press to get that glue spread sufficiently underneath. And there you go. There you go. So, the card is now finished. So there we go. So here's our card. The bridge card is what I'm calling it. So you can just kind of gently see the raindrops, which kind of mimics the shimmer of the side raindrops. And then you open it up and it's a nice sunny day. Rainy days are better with you. Oh, happy day on the inside. So that's that card. And as you can see, depending on which part of the designer series paper, you get different effects. And that's the darker one, which is very similar. So those are the cards, and so here I pressed too hard and got the speckled part, and those ones just have the regular in them. So hopefully you like that. On the description you can see all the products that I used. Give me a thumbs up if you liked it, and make sure you subscribe to see more videos in the near future. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to show you some other cards I made with this suite because I really love this suite. Here's a more simple one. This is made with the Designer Series paper. And I've done a video showing these two cards if you want to see how they were made on my global video hop for February. And these are made with some of the edge pieces from the Designer Series paper, so you don't waste anything. A lot of times people get the paper and then they have the issues where you can't use all the images because some of them are on the sides. So things like, here's our fox. There he is there. And as I mentioned before, this can be die cut with the dies. So even if it's a partial image, you can still die cut that partial image. So that's what I did there. I don't waste any of it. So it looks like he's just walking onto the scene. The same with some of these other images. You can use those side bits. This guy here, he's right there. And then there's another smaller image of him. And then we have these other ones throughout. Even the clouds. So if you got something with a partial cloud, you can still cut out the other cloud and use that. So use all your partial images. The same with things like the umbrellas on the edge. So I've got a few cards where I've done that. So those, we're using those partial images. I've got, as I said, I've got a video showing how to do that. Here's another one. That was the partial image of the turtle. So he had no bottom part. And this is one where the umbrella was cut off. So I put them through the peek through holes of this die here, and that's that same DSP with the rain. That's the partial clouds at the top. So I used the partial clouds and then I put some on the top of it. And there's that partial umbrella. Here I used the embossing folder, and then I just sponged it with the balmy blue to make it stand out more. So you can see the rain coming through there. When I die cut this, I used one of the circles that die cut out, obviously, there for the rainy days. And I was left with five other ones. I don't know where my fifth one went. So I was left with 5 other circles. And, must have used one there. And so I ended up using 4 of them on this card here. So I die cut some of those images from the Designer Series papers, did a bit of sponging, and then put the circles there to make a fairly simple card, and then stamped in just a bit of sponging on the inside for there. So those circles came from this stamp, that die from that original card. So when you have pieces that come out of cards, don't throw them away. You'll find somewhere else to use them. Similar to this one, these are scrap pieces that were left over from me making another project with a different Designer Series paper. And so I've just stuck them all together randomly. I sponged the background, stuck them together randomly, and did a pink bunny and turned it into a thank you card, and just even used one of the strips on the side there. This one here, that's the top part of that full page of Designer Series paper. I was talking about how you cut the clouds out. And then this is a specialty, a special free paper in the farm paper during celebration. I cut a section out, and then I stamped and fussy cut a bunch of little carrots and stuck them onto the paper so it looks like the carrots are coming out. And the Thanks a Bunch stamp is a free stamp for celebration, and that's where the sentiment, everything's coming up carrots, and the little carrots came from that set there. So that's that guy there. And then here's one I said I'd show you the kite. So here's the kite there. So the dies will cut the little bows, it'll cut the kite, and then there's dies to cut the contrasting color for the kite. This one here, I did a video with the owls showing how to make this style of card, but I changed it up with the rabbit on it. And then you simply pull this out. That's just a long piece of window sheet to give it the stabilization. So if you look in the back, you can see there's a window sheet stuck there. And the cloud is popped up on dimensionals to slide the kite out with the words showing up there. And again, this is the same technique we just did with the sponging and the coloring in of the flowers. And then I just did the turtle on the inside. And then what else have we got? Here we go. So this one is the Give It a Whirl die was used for this, with the clouds from that and the whole inside section. I've done some other videos with the Give It a Whirl die that you can look up. So I've got the umbrellas there in the background, and then you can see there's the Raindrops designer series paper. The images in here were all from the edges of the designer series paper, so they weren't complete images. Like this guy was missing the rest of his umbrella. And if, as I turn it, you'll see there's the turtle, and that was a partial image of the turtle. He was missing the front of him. And then there's the pig, and again, that was a partial image of the pig. But I shaped it to fit into that section there. And this was die cut out of the designer series paper. So the only stamping on here were the words. But what I thought was quite clever, and I didn't realize till I'd put it together, is the way the dog sits. The little rain there looks like it's falling into his hands. And you just use a little brad in the middle to hold it together. And then I'd contrast it the inside with some of the clouds. For here, the stamp actually stamps the 3 clouds together. So what I did is I only inked up the 2 bottom clouds, stamped that. Then I only inked up the top cloud and stamped that. So it looks like the 3 clouds are going across the top of the paper. So that's that one. And then I'm getting into the more complicated ones. So that's the designer series paper with the umbrellas at the bottom. And then the section on the back to write your message. That's a partial die cut section from the designer series paper. So I did use the die to cut it, but the edge and the bottom were missing. It's because they were on the edge of the paper. So again, using that, see if I can find him there. There he is, right there on the bottom. So he had no bottom and the flowers cut off. And I just used the die to cut him out and put him on the edge there, so you can't really tell. Looks like it was made for that. So this is a pop-up card. So you open it like that and it pops up. So this one I used the field paper, with the flowers in the field. And then in the back here, that's the embossed vellum. So you can see when you emboss vellum, it turns white. So the raindrops actually look white, which are quite cute. And I made sure I placed the dog so it looks like the raindrops falling on his hand. And these are all from the designer series paper. These were die cut from the paper, and you can tell because the back of them is the other side of the paper. And then I just fussy cut the words and popped everything around. I did a video of this technique a couple years ago. I believe it's called Signs of Santa. You can look that one up if you want to get the dimensions on how to make this card shape. It uses different characters in it, but if you've got other stamps, you can put together your own. So I even put some little puddles in the background there and added the floral so it looks like they're standing on the grass. And then there's one more. I think I'll pop this guy over there so it can be seen. One more piece de resistance. This big guy here. So this one used most of the items there were. The die cut wagon was from the pig, the birthday pig dies. I don't think they're available anymore, but everything else was from this set. So we've got our flowers. I put flowers everywhere. The butterfly, I believe, is from another stamp set as well. And we got our bunny. We can see our turtle in the background. The dog was from the designer series paper, and then you pop it open, and there you go. So the dog's coming across the bridge. He's got his kite in tow. This time he's got a string holding it with the little bows. We've even got a little trunk there, or flowers in the background. Here with those flowers and these, I actually colored the background the matching colors so it blended better instead of having the white background. This fox here is flying his kite as well. That was stamped, that was stamped, and that was stamped. That was cut out from the dies. Everything else here was stamped. And then we have our clouds. So you can see there's a lot going on. And I did the full sheet, so even looking through, it looks like it goes all the way to the bottom. And to stabilize the bridge, I used a piece of window sheet there just to make it more stable, because the bridge needed something to stick to. So that's there. And then on the back, and I used a piece of window sheet to hold the kite in place, I've got that. So that's where you can write, and I created that again with a partial cutout from the designer series paper. And this is what gave me the idea to do the full-size cards. So that's where this card idea came from, was the back of that card. So hopefully you enjoyed making that card, and I've given you lots of inspiration for lots of other cards from the Rain or Shine suite of products. If you want to order any, there I am, michellekritchley.stampinup.net. If you are in New Zealand and you want to order and purchase any cards, let me know. I can make cards to order. And thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye-bye.